Every playthrough of Terraria features the same loot to pick from, but recently, 1.4.5 added even more, which makes me wonder, can I beat Master Mode using only the new ones? Banning every weapon, armor piece, accessory, mount, and hook that existed before 1.4.5, and leaving everything else unrestricted like tools, buffs, and blocks. Could I even make it to Moonlord this way? Well, let's find out. This run begins in the jungle, where we can get our first new weapon of this run. Made from mud blocks, mud balls are now what we have access to, but while they sound like a fun time, they were really weak and made a big mess. Oh no, I'm not gonna do this. What is this? This isn't a real weapon, this is just a joke. Seeing that performance, I knew I had to get a different weapon, but while I was in the caves, I came across the skeleton merchant, who sold me the most important item of this run, the roller skates. This is an amazing new mount that not only makes you fast, but also increases jump height. They might even be a little too fast. What the f— After deciding to return to the surface, I could now make my second weapon, the cobweb. Oh my goodness, this is horrible too. Okay, stop. Let's just get a real weapon. Making a platform in the jungle, I searched for one of two Palworld summons, Foxparks or Cativa. And let me tell you, I am so glad I got the former because it's also a friggin' flamethrower. With a good summon under our belt, I went mining for Crimtane to upgrade my whip, and along the way I picked up a few life crystals as well. Unlocking the Vasculash, I was almost ready for King Slime, but I did want to try to solve her no defense problem first. And so, after exploring the underground desert, I was soon able to top off my arena with this, the Bast statue, giving me my first 5 defense, kicking off this fight. I'm probably better off using Foxparks. That's a clunky name. I'm probably better off using him just as a flamethrower. Oh my goodness! No, you can't do that. Besides nearly dying from bad weather, I got through this fight without getting hit once. Oh, and this isn't armor, it's just a new vanity set sold by the traveling merchant. Anyway, killing King Slime does unlock 2 new weapons for us, the Slime Whip and the Slime Spear, but Foxparks is so much better, so this fight was kind of pointless. But what isn't pointless is this discovery I made earlier after drinking a Featherfall potion. You can basically fly with a Featherfall potion. Considering we won't be using wings in this run, I had to get me some of that. Grabbing Iron Skin, Regeneration, and Swiftness as well, we were looking stellar. I then grabbed a Vital Crystal and an Arcane Crystal from the Shimmer, boosting our HP and mana regeneration permanently, leaving just one big thing keeping me from the brain of Cthulhu. It was time to get our first accessory. See, in 1.4.5, Hoplites now have an exciting new drop for us to play with. And after an hour of farming them, I had my hands on the Stress Ball. What's special about this accessory is that it uses some items automatically when the player is AFK. At least we were ready for the brain now, but before I could make my arena, something caught my eye. Holy crap! I wanted to find one of these, we finally found one. Look at that. What we have over here, if, you know, just based on the shape of it, I think we have a dragon egg. What? Pardon me? Hold on, can we spawn in the Brain of Cthulhu right now? Can you just kill it for me? Please kill the Brain of Cthulhu for me. Okay, and you're gonna despawn as soon as the fight starts? Okay. So I don't have an arena? Nonetheless, this fight went smoothly, and with it down, meteorites are now able to land, but before one could fall, I was greeted with the Goblin Army, which might have been the easiest one I've ever faced. Mind you, this is Master Mode. Though I am using Journey Mode to help with farming blocks and potions, it was not used to make this challenge easier, so this was all Foxparks doing. With the Goblin Army bested, it was time to search for the Goblin Tinkerer so we could make a new accessory, when suddenly a meteorite decided to land. Mining it up gave me the materials I needed to make 2 new weapons. The Star Crash, a new whip, was one of the 2 weapons I made, but the second and more important one was the pink phase blade, but I'll get to that later. Right, I want to find a huge dragon egg. It's supposed to be in the caverns layer, but I haven't found one yet. Dude, holy crap, look at that. Huge dragon egg detected nearby. Look how scrunched up that is. Ooh, that just screams that this is something juicy. I want it. Where is it? There it is, okay. Grabbing the huge dragon egg unlocks a chillet mount for us, which is going to come in handy for Skeletron. But before we do, let's get 8 more defense by grabbing our second accessory. So, using the Tinkerer's workbench to combine a string and a counterweight, I made the strung counterweight. And while this is useless in this run with no new yo-yos to play with, we can reforge these accessories to warding. Give me that. Oh, that feels so good. There's no way. We just got 8 defense from these accessories. This is amazing. So let's curse this old man. The plan for this fight was simple, with the star of the show being Chillet, because not only can it dash, almost one after another, it also boosts damage by 10%. Even with that in mind though, this mount still felt clunky to me, so I reverted back to the roller skates like the caveman I am, and just focused on hitting Skeletron. Often this ended up making use of a rework that Phase Blades received in 1.4.5, letting them be thrown like boomerangs, acting like our only long-range weapon. This fight still wasn't that easy though, and without hooks in this run, I could not risk getting caught up in Skeletron's spin attack. But that didn't happen, and the fight eventually ended. Now this is an incredible milestone because for the first and last time in this run, we're going to get ourselves a movement accessory. In the dungeon, we now have access to the Ram Rune, which lets you ground pound. It is a bit disappointing since you can't use it while mounted, but I'll take what I can get. We also grabbed ourselves a bewitching table from the dungeon, only to find out that you can't summon multiple fox perks. Grabbing some glowing mushroom grass seeds though, let me make the mushroom staff, spawning the mushroom boy, our last summon of this run. And while it was a bit on the weaker side at first, paying a visit to the Tinkerer to give it some armor penetration gave us something diabolical. That's about all I had to do before the wall of flesh, so after reluctantly going fishing to grab summoning, endurance, heart reach, rage, and wrath potions, despite having no armor, we were now ready to enter hard mode. I had a pretty good idea of how I wanted to fight this beast, and like with Skeletron, we'd be using the Phase Blade here. By throwing it at the wall's top eye, and having it fall down and ideally pierce its other 2 segments, we were pushing through this beast. It was slow, but with a long arena I made in T-Edit, I thought we'd be fine, until I noticed my mushroom boys. Yes, get up in there. Okay, hey, maybe we can do that. Maybe I just should try to tag this. It's tagged, I mean. Wait, is that it? Is that all it takes? The wall of flesh is just losing HP and it's not even on screen. What? What? That was so easy. Making the obligatory trip to break some altars, I realized the challenge ahead of me. Master mode, hard mode is already brutal, but without armor, no, it's painful. Go! No! But I cannot stress this enough. We can finally make armor. So, of course, I booked it to grab myself some orichalcum bars, which can be used to upgrade the mining armor set, an armor that's already existed, into prospector armor, giving me 33 more defense. Yet, somehow, we were still really weak. But with armor settled, let's move on to getting some new weapons before we fight the mech bosses. The first new weapon can be made using some crystals, letting us upgrade our pink phase blade into the pink phase saber for a good damage up. The second can be made by grabbing adamantite, letting us make this, the flint, which is a fantastic melee weapon, but it is just a melee weapon. So that's where the third weapon comes in, the killing deck sold by the wizard during a blood moon. Honestly, it seemed pretty weak at first, but reforging it to mythical, grabbing a magic power potion, and buying a crystal ball made this interesting. Even though, this just was not good enough for the twins. There's so much going on. Wow. Also, this isn't even the right... I wanted to use this, I think. Right? Is this... do I prefer this? I'm weak. I don't prefer it. Please stop. Wait. What? It's just so slow most of the time. And there's okay. No, nope, nope, this is over. What? This wasn't even close. I tried fighting them on a minecart sky bridge, but every time I got hit, I would be bounced up off the tracks, making it hard to even get in the second phase. And Skeleton Prime wasn't any better to me. Like, why is he that fast? This is a bit alarming. Is this challenge not possible? Well, we do have one more boss to try out, so let's try out the Destroyer. You'll notice I've gone ahead and gotten a new weapon for this boss fight, being the Barrel Launcher, a rare drop from the Pirate Invasion. Because it deals heavy area damage, this came in handy for the Destroyer, since it let me keep my distance while chipping away at this worm, turning this into an endurance fight as I made sure to cut its probes when they got overwhelming. Besides the Barrel Launcher, I also got Life Force Potions giving me 480 HP too, so there was no chance we'd lose this fight. And just like that, Destroyer, I hardly know her. With one mech boss down, the Skeleton Merchant now has something new for me to buy. Magic String. It can also be combined with a yo-yo bag to make a magic yo-yo bag, giving us the 5th and final new accessory for this run. Again, they don't do anything in this run, but I can reforge them. Heading into the jungle, we can also now collect up life food, which is going to bring us up to a grand total of 600 HP. I also took one extra life food down to the Shimmer to get an Aegis fruit for permanent 4 defense, now up to 65. And that was about all I could do before rematching the twins. But the difference in survivability with 12 more defense and 50% more HP definitely shows, since we were putting up a solid fight against these fine gentlemen. Using the Barrel Launcher and with the help of the Mushroom Boys, we quickly got to Spasmatism's second phase, which I think looks awesome. What isn't awesome is how hard it was to dodge, leaving this fight hanging by a thread, even though all he does is dash 6 times before becoming senile. Ah, my heart. My heart. Yes, yes. Okay. Alright, okay, there's no way we're gonna die to the red laser, right? Line of sight. Okay, now here we just have to win. Yeah, no crap. Again. Actually, I think his shots are more predictable here. Holy how am I dodging any of this? To beat Red Laser's second form, I made use of my trump card, the Pixie Transformation. This is a mount I got after committing a pixie genocide, but dang was it worth it. Its infinite flight and smaller hitbox made it really easy to dodge this boss's barrage attacks. And you can even get in a few hits if you're cheeky enough. Using the Ram Rune to get back to top running speed, I got in a flow until I brought down the twins. By the way, this green bunch of balloons is a sentry spawned from the Barnacle Staff. We do not talk about the Barnacle Staff. Instead, let's talk Skeleton Prime, which in theory should be a simple boss fight, but without knockback immunity, this was pretty tough. Dude, look how fast this goober goes. And we're so screwed. We're so screwed. Dude. He said, oh no, stop. Oh my goodness. But eventually, I figured it out. See, the trick to Prime on Asphalt is to slow down right before he's about to do his spin attack. And when he finally does, you should run away like heck broke loose. And yeah, doing that, I was able to pick up a rhythm. Also, while I am a gangsta, I'm not shooting like this for swag. Rather, the barrels from the Barrel Launcher deal more damage after one bounce. So, with these techniques in mind, the jungle grows restless. Speaking of the jungle, now that we're able to mine Chlorophyte, we've unlocked a new piece of armor. And it is... Are you kidding me? It has 2 defense. Dude, I thought it would have more. 2 defense? What? This is pathetic. I'm not even gonna use this. Yeah, I just wore his vanity and left it at that. A boy needs his defense after all. A boy also needs his health potions, and in 1.4.5, we can now craft the Jungle Juice, which heals 180 HP. This is going to help mark Pantera's death day. Break it, right? Come on. Her first phase was not bad at all, especially using the pixie mount to weave in between her projectiles. But once in the second phase, crap definitely hit the fan when that happened. Not only were her tentacles and claws crowding up my once big arena, her increased speed left me little room to dodge. As I struggle to dodge, let's take a moment here to discuss one thing. You may have been thinking to yourself, why isn't 5 using wings since 1.4.5 did add a few new ones? Well, the reason is, I didn't realize, and by the time I did, I thought, screw it, we ball. So this run is also going to be done without wings, gravitation potions, or the Rod of Discord. Back to the fight, things got pretty hard near the end as Plantera started locking in. Dude, what is this? What am I looking at? Why are you doing this? Why are you moving so quick? Stop. Please. Please. I'm concerned for my well-being. Ah, you stupid plant. This was never a close battle. However, while we are able to fight Golem now, the real reason I was fighting Plantera was to get a new weapon from her. But since I didn't, I'd have to kill her again. No, are you kidding? Oh, come on, you get... I'm literally one... Yes! Oh, finally! It's the vulgar display of flower. This is based off of a song from the band Pantera, which this boss is based off of. Okay, stop yapping. The vulgar display of flower is a pretty whip, and pretty freaking strong too, since when summons hit enemies tagged by this whip, they spawn homing petals that have 50 armor penetration. This is gonna come in handy, but not for Golem, oh no, for Duke Fishron, because this bugger has another new whip that I want. The plan for Duke is to run along this circuit of asphalt platforms, while I use the Flint's secondary slam attack to whittle away at His Majesty's first 2 forms. Of course, we can't keep going up though, so eventually we can ram rune all the way back down the left edge of the arena to repeat the cycle. Eventually getting into the 3rd phase, this is where the real challenge begins. See, I failed to mention one thing about the Chillet mount, which is the fact that it grants brief invincibility when dashing through an enemy. This is what we're taking advantage of here, but when I mean brief, I mean the timing has to be nearly perfect. This intensity, I hope, explains this reaction. Oh my goodness. Here is where the whip comes in handy, since its wide attack range lets me just focus on dodging. Though you'll notice its petals are a bit too slow to even hit Fishron, so I was a bit disappointed, but all I had to do was not die and we'd be golden. 2, 3... Oh my goodness. Yes, it has been done. Without the stress ball, mind you. Oh, that was so stressful. Please, please, please. No, I have to do it again. Awesome, please. Just... Yes! Oh my... finally. Well, it wasn't fight. This is the second fight. The Electric Eagle is an awesome crowd control weapon that is going to shine in the Golem fight. Essentially, besides just dealing a lot of damage, this whip also inflicts a damage over time effect that deals more damage the more enemies you hit. Considering Golem's 3 hitboxes, this was magic. But while our damage was good, our movement was not, making dodging hard. Chillet didn't even really help that much, since Golem's balls were just coming out of nowhere and weren't predictable at all. So that's when I tried something I've always wanted to try with Golem. On the left here is a bouncy ball containment system, powered by Hoiks. This serves to trap and destroy the fireballs, and so, tricking Golem to make sure he only fires in that direction, we effectively neutralize that attack for the first phase. In the second phase, we were able to get his head stuck in the ceiling to block his fireballs, and using the Chillet mount for its dash, the lasers weren't a problem either, making this fight solved. Obtaining nothing from Golem but a warm feeling in my heart, it was time to fight this pissant, who I tried luring back to my main arena but felt like retaliating. Brushing past a few close calls on our way back, we were able to make it in one piece. This fight wasn't actually too bad, using the Ram Rune to dodge its attacks. Our whip's debuff also made the real cultist easy to spot in its decoy attack, so this fight was pretty laid back, until these darned mushroom boys hit a decoy. Hey, no, that was not me who did that. Are you kidding me? How much harder does this boss get when you mess up that attack? Really? When your minions mess up that attack. Look! It happened again. But things worked out because the Electric Eagle handles multiple hitboxes like a champ, and very soon after, this chore was done. Yeah, I can identify the real one. And holy crap, is this the right one? This is the one I wanted to fight as well. With the Stardust Pillar spawning right here, we now had access to the final new weapon of this run. With some Stardust fragments, I can now craft the Constellation. Look at this whip, its single target damage is crazy and it even shreds right through hard mode bosses. This is going to come in handy for Moonlord, so why don't we get to it? The pillars were made easy enough thanks to this weapon anyway. Now I'm liking this, we just circle around it. And come on now, come on, you're done. Alright, hold on, let me get. I don't have... come on. Oh, the Moon Lord's coming. We only have 45 seconds, come on. Okay, at an ancient manipulator, I have to make it there. No, he's already here. Get away from me. Wow. This isn't... Wait a second. I can actually kill those life drain things. Yeah, oh my goodness, that did 376 damage. This was going to be tough, but we will defeat Moonlord. With an asphalt platform to run on, let's go over the strategy. Essentially, we just have to dodge 2 attacks. Just 2. The main kicker is the Phantasmal Death Ray, which is not something we can afford to get hit by. To dodge this, I'd use the speed boost of the asphalt to run away at the perfect time to make Moonlord teleport onto me just before getting hit. The second and more dangerous attack for me were these little spear things that Cthulhu shoots out. Because of how fast they move, they're very hard to dodge, and while they don't do much damage, they can add up. Plus the knockback can easily get me killed. The only thing that makes this fight remotely possible though, is that these attacks have a fixed attack pattern. I just had to focus on dodging, carried once again by the Ram Rune. Eventually, we just had its upper eye left to take down. Okay, now we did. Ooh, Traveling Merchant has arrived. Goody. This is the hardest part of the fight, since we have to get really close to be able to hit it, almost to the point where we're touching its hand, leaving little time to react to his spears. It also became harder for me to dodge his death ray now with my nerves as high as they were. But thanks to a bed I placed in the arena, I could recall potion away to dodge the laser if I so needed. If I messed both of those things up, I could use the pixie mount to fly up to avoid the 60-degree arc that the beam travels. Keeping this up, I was able to move into Moonlord's second phase. With his core open, things became a bit more tame, but we weren't smooth sailing. I have never been more scared playing Terraria than I was just now. We've made it so far with early hard mode armor. With almost no useful accessories or set bonuses. No wings, no knockback immunity, no dash, no rod of discord, no hook. Could Master Mode even be possible like this? Or rather, should it be? As the fight neared its end, I think we got our answer.